Our next speaker is Michael Chilvers. Michael is planning on using his Nuffield scholarship to explore ways by which agriculture businesses grow and expand, particularly in the context of mixed cropping and livestock business. So Michael has become the contemporary scholar on the board, on the national board, along with Jane Bennett. That makes 2 Tasmanians on the board, which is wonderful, and as they say, 2 heads is better than 1. So I'd like to get Michael up here to...
Thanks for that flourishing introduction. Nothing like a little bit more pressure this morning. Yeah, I'm Michael Chilvers, 2012 Nuffield Scholar from Tasmania. Before I get started, I'd just like to give a really big thanks to GRDC, my sponsor. They invest a lot in capacity building throughout the grains industry, and it's an honour to be a recipient of that. Nuffield Australia, Terry and Jim in particular, I think we're all a bit inspired by what Jim does on a day-to-day basis. Great opportunity, and it's been one heck of a journey. Family and friends, particularly Fiona, she's carried a lot while I've been away, travelling for 22 weeks in all. She probably ran the farm better than I did, which is a little bit disappointing. She's far more organised than I am. So, and the friends and family around us, so big thanks there. Where did this journey take me? Well, I started off on the Contemporary Scholars Conference, started in China, then travelled around the world on that. On my private study, I went to South America and Chile and Uruguay, where on the second day I was relieved of all my luggage. Travelling light, I then went to the Pacific Northwest, saw some amazing farming country there, back across to the Ukraine. Then this year I travelled into Russia and the UK last year. It's an amazing journey. Where did I come from? Well, our business is located in northern Tasmania, about half an hour south of Launceston, where you'll be next year. We're in a sort of a broad river valley, I guess, quite a bit of floodplain, and we have irrigation water out of the South-East River. Our business consists of about 1,080 hectares. We're fairly intensive. It's about 450 hectares of irrigation under set of pivot. We're running 9 enterprises, 9 or 10, depending on how you count them. So we've got livestock, we've got finishing lambs, running dry dairy stock, specialist seed crops like hybrid carrots, hybrid canola, grass seed, grains, lucerne hay. You can make up a few more if you like. We do specialist things, but we're not specialised in anything. And that's one of the key things I came home with, really. That intensive management causes a lot of issues, and people would ask me, what's the constraint in growing your business? And I have to say that it's the ability to manage and the intensity of the management of those enterprises, especially in the context of wanting to expand your business. That led to some interesting questions and the discussions I had as I travelled around the world. So I wanted to find out what correlation potentially exists between effective production systems and opportunities to expand. And what's the case of developing systemised management in mixed farming? It's trying to define those decision points to use on a day-to-day basis that we all think is a bit intuitive, and everyone says this farming thing, it's intuitive. And I think we overcomplicate it. I think there's some key data we need to really pin down and we can move forward. And I also came across an interesting one. There's a big disparity between the strict operating protocols and procedures in processing and manufacturing and in field production. So things will come into the packing shed, there'll be no processes or protocols. As soon as it hits the packing shed door, fully systemised. And what are the key influencing factors of determining avenues for expansion of agricultural businesses? What is it that makes those people tick and makes them think, yeah, I can do that and I can do it this way? So I set out looking for a systemised approach. I started off, as I said, South America. went to see a New Zealand investment crowd running a 22,000 hectare farm. They were in the development phase. They were rolling out dairies based on 200 hectares, 600 cows, a herringbone dairy, and they had 37 of these, and they were just continually building off the pro forma plan every year. They would build the thing, hand a manager the rule book, and the manager stuck to the rule book. And if you deviated from it, he had to explain why. Great for when you're expanding rapidly, keeps a real lid on the management creep below you, but I came away thinking, oh, there's much room for innovation in that system. So that might be something that they'd need to consider going forward. Processing and packing, as I said earlier, lots of systems and protocols, largely driven probably by QA, product traceability requirements. But it certainly makes the throughput very sharp, very efficient. You bring in your lean process and the CI systems that Stewie was talking about yesterday. This was at Monson Fruit Packing in USA. They can get stuff to upstate New York in about 23 hours from Washington State. So it's pretty impressive infrastructure in the US. As I said earlier, one of the key things I came home with was the fact that here I am running 9 enterprises. Good managers I saw, there was a trend, they were running between 3 and 5. 5 was an outlier, most of them were running 3 or 4. And that really made me start to think. And there's some huge benefits in specialising. And I mean, we all know what they are. You can target your investment in machinery, in people capital, in training, the list goes on. But especially from a Tasmanian context where we tend to over-diversify perhaps, I think there's a need to understand the costs of that. Strategies for expansion. I came across many strategies. I was fortunate enough to get to Russia to see Black Earth Farming. They're one of the larger farming companies on the planet. They were doing about 240,000 hectares of crop a year. 80,000 hectares of wheat that they had to get planted in about 2 weeks, and then in the spring they were doing a big spring cropping program, and the spring lasted 3 weeks in Russia. When I got there in mid-April, the snow had been melted for about a week, and they were just starting to spray and fertilise. A couple of weeks after I left, there were 30-degree days every day. So it's an amazing farming system with beautiful soils. Another technique is replication. I saw James Peck from Cambridgeshire. He's built a business starting from nothing. He does a contract management sort of model. He steps onto a farm. He's got a standard pro forma of the way he soil tests. So he defines the resource, I guess, and he's got quite a process he goes through on that. So that was a little bit of a system he had. It wasn't codified, but it would be easy to codify. Diversification, we all hear about that a fair bit, I guess. A good example I saw there was a large farming business in California called Zuckerman Farms. They had 9 enterprises, 3 managers, so they were still only managing 3 enterprises each. And they diversified into turf a few years ago and developed a line called Kentucky Bluegrass. With that and a bit of good timing, they were pretty much able to corner the turf market in California, which is fairly significant. Another interesting one, particularly in the Tasmanian context, the vertical integration, was Bruce Farms at Dundee in Scotland. They were pea growers, contract pea growers, so they'd go out and contract land to grow peas on for freezing. The freezing works was closing down or being sold. They teamed up with their arch rival and bought the freezing works. Great example of vertical integration, seeing an opportunity to save an industry in an area. They contract freeze for Simplot and all the big pea growers. So my recommendations, systems are not a prerequisite for expansion, but certainly can help, and I think they'll help more and more into the future. Good systems need to be created from within the business. Everyone in the business needs buy-in. We need to develop it together. We need everyone on board. It needs to be well articulated what your plan is, what your aim is, and everyone needs input. And the design has to be very relevant to each farm or business context. So it's no good just picking up a pro forma thing and dropping it on someone's desk and saying, this is what we're going to do today. It has to shape and mould into that A, business, and B, farm culture. Begin with what you know and use available expertise and continually improve. So use agronomists, use advisors, everyone that's involved within your business and with outside it. Key message, I think, going forward, especially in the context of having travelled in developing agricultural areas, well-designed and implemented systems can develop value similar to brands. Just to conclude, the impacts on our business and on me personally, it's been a huge time of personal growth. Some would argue there's still a fair way to go. But it's been a fantastic opportunity. I've been outside my comfort zone for nigh on 2 years now. That's not going to end. And as far as our business, we're going to start by rationalising our enterprise mix, which we've already begun to do, try and work out which enterprises are more complementary. And then after we've got that under control, we can then look at developing systems around those enterprises that are named. So in conclusion, a big thank you again to everyone that was involved in my Nuffield experience. Thank you.